On September 13th, 2009, you find yourself standing under the blinding lights of the MTV Video Music Awards stage. A 17-year-old Taylor Swift, blonde and universally adored as America's sweetheart, has just won Best Female Video and is in the middle of delivering her innocent acceptance speech. Suddenly, you walk right up, snatch the microphone directly out of her hand, and utter the words that will change everything. "Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'ma let you finish, but Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time." As the crowd erupts into a chorus of intense boos, Taylor stands completely frozen in shock, while Beyoncé looks on with absolute horror. You simply hand the microphone back and walk off into the wings. At 32 years old, you have just instantly transformed into the most hated man in America. You genuinely do not comprehend why everyone is so furious with you. In your mind, Beyoncé's video objectively outclassed it, and you believe facts should override pure emotion. However, you are about to learn the hard way, over and over again, that this is simply not how the world operates. Your story begins as Kanye West, born on June 8, 1977 in Atlanta, Georgia. Your father, Ray West, is a brilliant photojournalist and a former Black Panther, but he is largely absent from your life after your parents' divorce when you are just 3 years old. Full custody goes to your mother, Donda West, an intellectual English professor who relocates you to the rugged south side of Chicago. She raises you with a strict academic focus, pushing you to read deeply and think critically. Most importantly, she constantly reinforces the idea that you are uniquely special and destined to fundamentally alter the world. Because she has never lied to you before, you believe her completely. As a teenager, you become completely obsessed with art, sketching, and the intricate mechanics of music. By the age of 13, you were spending your days in the basement crafting beats, specifically learning how to take vintage soul records, chop them into fragments, loop them, and layer them with heavy drums. You clearly possess a rare gift, hearing hidden melodies and structured patterns inside musical chaos where others hear nothing. At 15, you produce your very first track and sell it to a local Chicago rapper for $250, immediately spending every single cent on upgraded studio equipment. Driven by an insatiable hunger, you create and sell more beats until you finally make the radical choice to drop out of Chicago State University. Your mother, being a professor herself, literally begs you to stay in school, but you refuse to waste any more time. You believe higher education only teaches what people already know, whereas your mission is to create sounds the world has never heard before. By 20, you're living entirely out of your mother's basement, with no college degree, no stable employment, and nothing to your name but a drum machine and a sampler. You spend hours producing tracks for local Chicago artists, charging next to nothing because your primary focus is building a pristine resume and a signature sonic identity. You pioneer a highly distinct sound, featuring hyper-sped-up soul samples, lush orchestral strings, powerful gospel choirs, and deep, knocking drums. Your production feels incredibly expansive, warm, and rich, standing in stark contrast to both the gritty East Coast boom bap and the smooth funk of the West Coast. This revolutionary aesthetic belongs entirely to you. Your definitive breakthrough arrives in the year 2000 when you were 23 years old. After landing production credits for big names like Jermaine Dupri and Foxy Brown, you catch the attention of Jay-Z with your work on a Beanie Sigel album track titled "This Can't Be Life." Intrigued by the sound, Jay-Z calls you directly, prompting you to catch a flight to New York to showcase your beat catalog in his studio. He immediately selects a track that relies on a pitched-up, heavily chopped sample of The Doors' 5 to 1, layering it with aggressive horns and a rhythmic cadence that mimics a literal military march. The resulting song, The Takeover, a brutal diss track aimed at Nas, becomes an instant hip-hop legend. Without even having a rap career of your own yet, you have successfully produced a cornerstone track for the biggest rapper alive. By the summer of 2001, you deliver Izzo, HOVA, an infectious anthem built around a sample of the Jackson 5's I Want You Back. Industry insiders repeatedly warned you against using it, claiming the sample was far too obvious and overly pop-centric, but you trust your instincts and release it anyway. The track skyrockets to number 8 on the Billboard charts and achieves certified platinum status. You follow this success with Heart of the City, fueling Jay-Z's iconic The Blueprint album with even more soulful hits. Now recognized as the absolute hottest producer in the entire hip-hop landscape, Rockefeller Records officially signs you to their roster. At 24, you're pulling in a lucrative 6-figure income and are effectively set for life. But your ambition demands much more. You openly announced to the executives that you want to step up to the microphone as a rapper, a declaration that causes them to laugh behind your back. The prevailing industry wisdom dictates that technical producers simply do not transition into rappers, especially a middle-class kid from Chicago who wears bright polo shirts and backpacks instead of fitting the gritty, street-oriented gangster mold of New York or Los Angeles. Co-founder Dame Dash dismissively tells you that perhaps you can explore a rap album further down the line, but only after you deliver more radio hits for their established artists. You are completely furious because you've been writing complex verses since your childhood and you desperately need someone to actually listen to your voice. Refusing to be sidelined, you continue recording on your own terms. In October 2002, just 3 weeks after a near-fatal car crash leaves your jaw shattered in multiple places, you record Through the Wire. With your mouth literally wired shut, making it incredibly painful and difficult to articulate words, you lay down the vocals anyway. The resulting track features a distinct lisp and an undeniable undertone of raw physical pain, perfectly capturing your sheer determination. Sampling Chaka Khan's Through the Fire, you passionately narrate your survival, your grueling recovery, the industry's rejection, and your ultimate hunger for success. When you play the raw track for the executives, it moves people to tears, causing Damon Dash to completely reverse his stance and greenlight your debut studio album. You invest 2 intense years of your life meticulously shaping The College Dropout. Originally slated for a 2003 release, the project faces a string of endless delays because your extreme perfectionism forces you to constantly scrap completed tracks, rewrite verses, and re-record vocal layers. You assemble a powerful lineup of guest features, including Jay-Z, Talib Kweli, Common, Mos Def, and Selena Johnson on the soaring hook for All Falls Down. You personally produce and rap on every single track to ensure your creative vision remains completely pure and undiluted. When the album finally drops on February 10, 2004, it debuts spectacularly at number 2, selling 440,000 copies in its opening week before going triple platinum. At 26, you have definitively silenced every single doubter in the industry. The 2005 Grammy Awards become a massive sweep for you, yielding 10 nominations and 3 major wins, including Best Rap Album. Yet even while standing on top of the music world, you still feel an intense, lingering need to prove your worth. On August 30, 2005, you release Late Registration, an even more sophisticated artistic achievement that features co-production from cinematic composer John Bryan, complete with live string arrangements and full orchestras. The track Gold Digger, driven by a classic Ray Charles sample and a stellar vocal hook by Jamie Foxx, explodes into your very first #1 single. The track blankets global radio, clubs, and weddings, officially cementing your transition from a hip-hop star into a global pop culture icon. On September 2, 2005, during a live televised Hurricane Katrina benefit telethon on NBC, you completely derail the script by declaring George Bush doesn't care about black people. Standing directly beside you, actor Mike Myers completely freezes in shock before the network frantically cuts the camera feed away. The political and social backlash is immediate and severe, with the White House publicly branding your statement as an absolute disgrace. You completely refuse to apologize for the remark, however, because you saw the stark inequality in the emergency response and felt a moral obligation to broadcast exactly what you witnessed. On September 11, 2007, you drop Graduation, intentionally setting up a high-profile album sales battle against 50 Cent to see who can move more copies in the opening week. You dominate the competition by selling an incredible 957,000 copies compared to his 691,000, effectively altering the entire trajectory of hip-hop. This victory single-handedly closes the curtain on the dominant era of aggressive gangster rap, making your brand of thoughtful, backpack-conscious pop rap the new industry standard. It wasn't just a commercial victory, you fundamentally redefined the acoustic possibilities of the genre. Tragedy strikes on November 10, 2007, when your mother, Donda, unexpectedly passes away at age 58 due to severe medical complications following cosmetic surgery. At 30 years old, you are completely consumed by a wave of crushing guilt because you personally financed the procedures and actively encouraged her to get them, telling her she deserved to treat herself. When she passes away on the operating table, your entire world shatters. You completely shut down, refusing to speak for weeks on end, completely unable to write music or function. The weight of her absence threatens to eat you alive. Out of that dark pit of grief, you channel your sorrow into 808s and Heartbreak, released on November 24, 2008, exactly 1 year after her passing. The project sounds completely alien compared to your previous catalog, featuring absolutely zero soul samples, no traditional rapping, heavy auto-tune singing, and stark mechanical rhythms driven by the Roland TR-808 drum machine. The sound is intensely sad, cold, and hollow. Music critics are utterly baffled, and your core fanbase is left deeply confused, but you remain entirely indifferent to the criticism. You aren't creating entertainment for the public, you are using music as a raw tool for psychological survival. Ultimately, this brave aesthetic blueprint shapes the entire next decade of hip-hop, directly birthing the careers of Drake, Future, Travis Scott, and The Weeknd. You successfully pioneered a brand new global genre directly out of your personal agony. Then, the infamous Taylor Swift incident occurs in 2009. Behind the scenes, you were drinking heavily, deeply mourning your mother, and harboring an immense amount of internal rage. Your sudden stage interruption transforms you into an international villain overnight, even prompting President Obama to off-the-records label you a jackass in a leaked audio clip. To escape the suffocating backlash, you completely disappear from public view, exiling yourself to a studio sanctuary in Hawaii. There, you embark on an exhausting 18-hour-a-day creative lockdown to build My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. You recruit an elite collective of artists, including Rick Ross, Nicki Minaj, Jay-Z, Bon Iver, and Pusha T, constantly scrapping, rewriting, and rebuilding tracks until you forge a maximalist masterpiece. The final product is an orchestral, incredibly dense, and deeply layered musical event. When it drops on November 22, 2010, the critical reception is flawless. Pitchfork awards it a rare, perfect 10.0, and Rolling Stone crowns it the definitive album of the decade, completing your spectacular public redemption. For the next several years, your life becomes a whirlwind of erratic public behavior. You routinely interrupt award shows, launch explosive rants on Twitter, delete your accounts, and return just as quickly. You begin publicly proclaiming that you are a god, and while the public assumes it is a bizarre joke, you are entirely serious. You view yourself not in a traditional religious sense, but as an indispensable creative vessel chosen to drive human culture forward and voice the unfiltered truths that others are too terrified to speak. Though mental health experts frequently speculate in the media that you are experiencing bipolar disorder, you refuse to seek a formal medical diagnosis, choosing instead to channel that raw, unchecked energy into your work. In 2009, you launch your fashion empire, Yeezy, initially partnering with Nike to create the highly coveted Air Yeezy sneaker line. The limited edition drops sell out in a matter of seconds, causing the secondary resale market to explode with pairs trading for thousands of dollars. Despite the massive success, you boldly sever ties with Nike because they refuse to pay you direct royalties on your designs. In 2013, you pivot to Adidas, securing an unprecedented deal that grants you full creative autonomy and substantial royalty percentages. The subsequent launch of the Yeezy Boost line in 2015 triggers a massive global phenomenon, consistently selling out global inventory the moment it hits shelves. This venture elevates you to a billionaire status entirely separate from your music earnings. You expand into clothing design, showcasing oversized silhouettes, muted earth tones, and a minimalist dystopian aesthetic often labeled as homeless chic. While fashion critics frequently mock your runway shows, consumers buy the pieces en masse, turning Yeezy season into an absolute industry powerhouse. You are no longer just an artist, you are an international brand and a corporate empire. Your personal life shifts dramatically when you begin dating longtime friend Kim Kardashian in 2012, following her highly publicized divorce. The pairing of her massive reality television celebrity with your high art sensibilities strikes the public as incredibly bizarre, yet the relationship works beautifully. In 2013, you orchestrate an incredibly lavish marriage proposal at AT&T Park in San Francisco, renting out the entire baseball stadium alongside a full orchestra and a spectacular fireworks display, flashing "Will You Marry Me" across the giant jumbotron. You officially wed on May 24, 2014, inside a historic Renaissance fortress in Florence, Italy. You wear a flawless, custom Givenchy suit while she walks down the aisle in intricate Givenchy lace, culminating in a spectacular $2.8 million celebration. Together, you welcome 4 children into the world: North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm. When you name your firstborn daughter Northwest, the world reacts with widespread mockery, but you remained completely unbothered, because to you, she represents your true North Star and your ultimate purpose. Slowly, your public outbursts begin to take a dark and exhausting turn. During your live performances, you routinely stop the music entirely just to launch into extended, unscripted monologues, venting your frustrations regarding Jay-Z, Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Nike, and the inner workings of the music industry. These rants regularly stretch from 30 minutes to an hour, leaving paying fans standing in confusion as they receive intense political manifestos instead of the hit songs they paid to hear. This spiral culminates during the 2016 St. Pablo tour at a show in Sacramento, where you deliver a fiery 17-minute tirade declaring that while you didn't vote, you would have cast your ballot for Donald Trump. As a wave of intense boos rains down from the crowd, you abruptly end the concert early and cancel the entire remainder of the tour. Days later, you are involuntarily hospitalized under a psychiatric hold, suffering from extreme sleep deprivation, total physical exhaustion, and severe paranoia. Following a week of medical evaluation, you emerge with bleached blonde hair, delete your entire Instagram presence, and retreat into absolute silence for months. You shock the public yet again on December 13, 2016, by appearing at Trump Tower for a high-profile meeting with President-elect Donald Trump. By 2018, you are publicly wearing a red MAGA hat and tweeting your open admiration for conservative commentator Candace Owens. The controversy reaches a boiling point when you walk into the TMZ newsroom for a live interview and recklessly state that hundreds of years of African-American slavery sounded like a conscious choice. The entire room falls dead silent before staff member Van Lathan courageously confronts you, stating plainly that your words are dangerously incorrect and deeply painful. Instead of backtracking, you double down on your statements. Your global fan base instantly fractures, causing lifelong friends and collaborators like John Legend, Jay-Z, and Common to publicly distance themselves from you. While you proudly view yourself as an emancipated, free-thinking intellectual, your oldest peers view you as completely lost. In 2019, you experience a profound spiritual awakening and launch Sunday Service, a series of deeply moving, exclusive weekly gatherings centered around powerful gospel music and a massive vocal choir. You completely reorchestrate your iconic secular catalog into powerful worship tracks, abandoning massive sports arenas to perform out in open fields, desolate deserts, and on the hills of Coachella. On October 25, 2019, you release Jesus is King, a dedicated gospel rap album packed with deeply Christian themes. Announcing that you are officially born again, you make the vow to completely purge profanity and secular concepts from your art, dedicating your talents entirely to God. While a segment of your audience questions the authenticity of the pivot, you remain entirely unconcerned because you feel completely saved. On July 4, 2020, you make the sudden announcement that you are running for President of the United States. Because you entered the race incredibly late, you failed to meet the filing deadlines for the vast majority of state ballots, ultimately securing a spot on just 12 states as an independent candidate representing the self-styled birthday party. Your political platform is highly disjointed, combining staunch anti-abortion stances with mandatory Christian values and anti-vaccine rhetoric. During your singular chaotic campaign rally in South Carolina, you completely break down in tears on stage, sobbing uncontrollably as you reveal to the crowd that you and Kim had seriously considered aborting your first daughter, North. The audience sits in stunned silence, completely unsure how to process your raw vulnerability. On election night, you pull in a meager 60,000 votes nationwide, suffering an obvious and definitive defeat. Your marriage completely unravels in February 2021 when Kim officially files for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences after 7 years of marriage and 4 children. While she retains custody of their massive primary estate, you are left completely heartbroken and begin a brief, highly publicized relationship with actress Julia Fox that lasts only a few weeks. Soon after, you begin using your Instagram account to launch a relentless public harassment campaign against Kim and her new boyfriend, SNL comedian Pete Davidson. You mock him endlessly by coining the derogatory nickname Skeet and go so far as to release an animated music video depicting you kidnapping and burying a caricature of him alive. Despite receiving a barrage of serious cease and desist letters from her legal team, your public behavior spirals completely out of control. Your entire empire completely collapses in October 2022, following a series of highly volatile podcast appearances where you unleash a string of deeply offensive anti-Semitic remarks, including a public tweet threatening to go DEFCON 3 on people. Refusing to issue an apology, you double down on the rhetoric across multiple media outlets. The corporate fallout is swift and absolute. Adidas immediately terminates their lucrative partnership, followed by identical drop notices from Balenciaga, Gap, and your talent agency. In a matter of weeks, your personal net worth plummets by an astronomical $2 billion, instantly stripping you of your billionaire status and causing Forbes to officially remove you from their wealth lists. Simultaneously, major financial institutions like JP Morgan Chase cut all corporate ties and freeze your accounts. You find yourself completely and utterly canceled by the mainstream world. In December 2022, you surprise the public by entering into a private marriage ceremony with Bianca Censori, a brilliant young architectural designer for Yeezy. Though the union is not legally binding at first, you officially formalize the marriage later on. Together, you hit the streets of Italy and Paris, with Bianca wearing highly provocative avant-garde outfits that you personally curate, ranging from completely translucent bodysuits to minimal fabric wraps. The international media reacts with widespread shock, with critics accusing you of complete psychological control, while you fiercely counter that she is experiencing absolute creative freedom. You are eventually slapped with a lifetime ban by a Venetian boat company for public indecency, but you remain entirely unfazed, viewing your daily existence as a form of living, breathing performance art that the general public is simply too narrow-minded to comprehend. Your digital access is systematically stripped away as you are repeatedly banned from mainstream social platforms like Instagram and Twitter. Even after billionaire Elon Musk rebrands the platform to X and personally reinstates your account, you are quickly banned yet again after posting an image combining a swastika with a Star of David. With no mainstream media platforms left, you are forced to distribute your music entirely independently. You partner with R&B artist Ty Dolla $ign to form the duo YS, releasing the collaborative album Vultures. The entire rollout is characterized by absolute logistical chaos, featuring unannounced listening parties, endless release date pushbacks, and streaming albums that drop completely unfinished, only to be updated with patches days later. While millions of listeners have moved on, a deeply dedicated core of die-hard fans continues to stream the music. Individuals who choose to strictly separate the art from the artist, holding on to the golden memories of the college dropout, late registration, and dark fantasy. Today, you are Kanye West. You are 49 years old, the proud winner of 24 Grammy Awards with over 160 million records sold worldwide. You have single-handedly dictated the sonic landscape of music and the trends of global fashion for over 20 years, building a multi-billion-dollar empire from scratch, only to watch it vaporize in a single month. You have married the most famous woman in pop culture and divorced her, launched a chaotic bid for the presidency, and spent time inside a psychiatric ward. You carry a formal diagnosis of bipolar disorder, yet you routinely choose to bypass your prescribed stabilizers because you are convinced they actively stifle your creative genius. You choose your art every single time. You have lost your beloved mother, your marriage, your corporate alliances, and your public reputation, leaving behind a trail of words and actions that can never be undone. Yet, you are not truly sorry. Instead, you remain deeply defiant, intensely paranoid, and utterly convinced that the entire world is actively plotting your downfall. While you have given the public every reason to turn against you, you simply refuse to view accountability through the lens of ordinary society. You believe entirely in the absolute immunity of genius and the historic burden of being misunderstood, constantly comparing your trajectory to other persecuted visionaries like Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, and Picasso. Where you see a historic visionary running through his necessary wilderness era before a triumphant return, the rest of the world sees a tragic cautionary tale, a monumental talent who had the entire world in his hands and utterly destroyed it because he simply could not stop talking. Yet you continue to create, design, and compose inside smaller, quieter rooms with far fewer eyes tracking your movements. Deep down, you can never stop believing in your own divine election, because if you ever abandon the belief that you are a chosen genius, you are forced to face a reality you cannot bear. That you are simply a grieving kid from Chicago who made incredible beats, got famous, and cracked under the weight of the world. You refuse to ever be just that. You are Kanye, you are Ye, and you contain multitudes. The only difference between you and the rest of humanity is that you choose to broadcast your beautiful, dark, twisted contradictions to 300 million people, and you will continue to do so until they take away your very last microphone.